Bucs fans, my Fear the Bay Gunners, welcome back to another episode of Fear the Bay. I'm your host, Dan Morales, and moments ago we just got the release of the 2026 schedule for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I peeked at it a little bit. I'll be honest, I peeked at it a little bit, but now I'm going to go through it full, and you'll see my reaction to all these games, all the matchups that the Buccaneers will be facing in 2026. We've known the teams, the home games, the away games for a while now. But now we know the exact dates. When, what time? Is it Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football? Is it regular Sunday 1 o'clock kickoff? And we know the bye week as well. So we'll go through all that right now. I'm excited because that means we're closer. We're inching closer to football. We're going to have a dry spout right now for 2 months throughout the summer. But at the end of summer, we got training camp, we got preseason, and then September comes around. We have football, real meaningful football back once again on our football screens. And if you ask me, there's few things more beautiful than that, All right, so before we get started here, if you can, please make sure you check and see if you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed yet, do so quickly. It's just you just click a button. It's free. It's quick. We got a little trade deal here. All right, I supply the content, and then you guys just got to make sure you follow. Okay, so it's a little trade. I supply the content, you trade, free, no money involved whatsoever. It's a fair deal if you ask me, right? All right, but let's get into this thing. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're not, do so real quick. It helps out with things like, if we're being honest, like here, media credentials, all these types of things. To acquire media credentials, you need follower accounts, certain follower numbers and metrics and all these types of things. So by helping out and subscribing and sharing this content out with more Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans like yourself, it just helps grow Fear the Bay. Just helps Fear the Bay become eventually a household name in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers media market. So just if you haven't done so already, if you could do that, that would be awesome. So now let's get right into this schedule release. Again, I've peeked at some of the games. Okay, I know week one. I know that opponent. I peeked there, and I've seen through some of the games, but I haven't gone through the whole list yet. And exactly, which games are Thursday Night Football games and all these types of things, or primetime games. Let's get into it right now. Okay, so actually, before that, so the preseason, I know we overlooked the preseason. We want to get right into the regular season, but the preseason, week one is going to be at New York or New Jersey, right? To face the Jets. That is going to be August 14th. That's when we finally see some level of football back, right, on our TV screens. So week one of the preseason will be versus or at the Jets. Week two will be at home at Raymond James Stadium. The Kansas City Chiefs will come in. Remember, Patrick Mahomes hurt. They do have Gardner Minshew, of course, and also Gardner Minshew is now with the Arizona Cardinals. They have Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU, who they drafted in the late round of this year's draft, and also Justin Fields, who they traded for from the New York Jets. And then also week number 3 at Jacksonville against the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Liam Cohen-led Jacksonville Jaguars. And we heard at the NFL owners meeting this year that Liam Cohen and the Buccaneers, there's no bad blood between the two sides, and we might get a joint practice between these two teams. And it looks like, because of the game being in Jacksonville, held in Jacksonville, this might be, or is it Orlando? I don't know the specifics right now because I know their stadium's being built. But it seems like that joint practice will be held wherever the Jacksonville Jaguars are practicing and located for 2027. All right, let's continue here into the regular season. So week number 1, the Buccaneers will be on the road versus the Cincinnati Bengals. And I know the Bengals have struggled at times throughout the past few years in week number 1 in the season opener, but every year is a fresh slate. Every year is a refresh, and they might have lost, multiple seasons of their season openers, but this might be the one that they win. You never know which way it goes. So you can't just be like, okay, they're not good at week number 1, so we can pencil this in as a victory for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this is going to be a tough matchup for the Buccaneers. I think that the talent level is kind of equal between these two teams. I think the Buccaneers have the better offensive line. But what is special about the Cincinnati Bengals? Of course, the elite franchise quarterback when he's healthy, Joe Burrow, and his weapons, T. Higgins. He has Jamar Chase, one of the best wide receiver duos, but Jamar Chase, one of the best wide receiver ones in the entire league. The problem with the Bengals, of course, with their offense, Joe Burrow often injured, and then that offensive line, right? And this is actually good, where the Bengals' weakness being their offensive line, where the Buccaneers have revamped and strengthen their front seven with Sean Robinson, of course, Ruben Bain Jr. with the 15th overall selection, a healthy Kalijah Kancey, you would hope, Vita Vea. You have Yaya Diaby entering a contract year. So the weakness actually plays out in the Buccaneers' favor in terms of offensive line versus defensive line here. But I think this is going to be a pretty good matchup overall. If I was to pick a winner right now very early, I would say I would go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning to start off the season 1-0. All right, week number 2. The Buccaneers will be at home. This will be the home opener at Raymond James Stadium. It's a Sunday 1 o'clock game versus the Cleveland Browns. New head coach Todd Monken. They did draft 2 wide receivers with Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion. They drafted as well Spencer Fano to help out that offensive line, which Todd Monken and Andrew Berry, the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, have just tried to fuel in as much resources into the offensive line as they possibly can. It's going to be a reshaped offense overall, but the issue is still the quarterback position, right? Whether it's Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel or Deshaun Watson, whoever it may be, that is the biggest weakness on this Cleveland Browns team. I envision the Browns probably picking next year in the top 5, maybe top 7, somewhere around that range, definitely top 10. I think this is a victory for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In this case, very early we're going here, but this would be a 2-0 start to begin the season for the Buccaneers. All right, week number 3. The Vikings drafted Caleb Banks. They have also Kyler Murray, who came over from the Arizona Cardinals. So now you have this quarterback competition. I don't think it's much of a competition. It's J.J. McCarthy versus Kyler Murray. I think the nod probably goes to Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray would get to work with Justin Jefferson, and it's pretty exciting quarterback wide receiver duo. And this is going to be a fun, interesting game. I think the Buccaneers could still win this matchup. I don't see the Vikings probably going to be a better team than they were last year because of better quarterback play overall. But I think the Buccaneers can take on the Vikings here. So this might be a 3-0 start for the Buccaneers. This will be at home also. So back-to-back home games for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is a Sunday 4 o'clock kickoff game. All right, week number 4. This is at home also. So 3 back-to-back home games for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Green Bay Packers. And the timing of this matchup is interesting. This is a week 4 game. Now, the Packers traded last year for Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons suffered a torn ACL injury. If he is put on the PUP list, the PUP list, he will be out essentially for the first 4 games, I believe. So if he's placed on the PUP list, if he's not healthy to start off the season and he's placed on the PUP list, Micah Parsons would be missing from this game for the Green Bay Packers defense, which would be, obviously a positive for the Buccaneers. You want to always face the best of the best, right? You want to get each team at their best. Selfishly, if you want certain players to be out to help out your team, I get it. But you want to see what your team is really made of. And cheap wins or easy wins, sometimes it's not a true test of your own team's talent and grit and attitude and just overall strength of the roster. So the Packers here would be the week 4 matchup. So back-to-back 3 games in a row at home. So early stretch at home as we continue here. Week 5. So this is the first primetime game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Week 5, Thursday Night Football, 8:15 versus the Dallas Cowboys. And it oftentimes feels like the Dallas Cowboys get the better of the Buccaneers if you look throughout the past few years. The Dallas Cowboys were the final matchup in the playoffs for Tom Brady the team that ended his career. Now, this is a away game. We have 3 back-to-back home games now away at Dallas. Big lights, America's team. I don't think they're America's team, but America's team. And it's gonna be a good game overall if everybody, Dak Prescott's healthy, and you have CD Lamb, of course, and George Pickens, and you have all these type of big name players on the Dallas Cowboys. We also have a lot of big name talent, of course, on the Buccaneers, losing, of course, Mike Evans, Lavonte David, but overall the roster is still strong. You still have Tristan Wirfs, you still have Mike Evans, you still have Chris Godwin Jr., Mecca Buka, you still have Antoine Winfield Jr., Tyke Smith, who's coming into his own, Vita Vea. So overall, I mean, to start off this season, I could possibly envision a 4-1, maybe even a 5-0 start for the Buccaneers. Now, we don't know how this is going to play out. there's injuries, that come about unexpectedly. There's always the injury bug that hits a certain spot in the roster or multiple spots of the roster. So, you never know. But just looking right now, way too early prediction. This could be approximately like a 4-1, 5-0 start. Maybe at worst 3-2, but I think you're looking at more like a 4-1, 5-0 start for the Buccaneers. All right, back home for week number 6 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And who is going to be at quarterback? They have new head coach, of course, Mike McCarthy, former head coach of the Packers and Dallas Cowboys. But week 6 at home, it's a Sunday 1 o'clock game, CBS. It's going to be Drew Aller at quarterback, who I believe, reading from Max, they've unloaded or just thrown away all his former mechanics and they're trying to upload new mechanics and new motions for him and new throw motions and all these types of things. So they're trying to form Drew Aller into the quarterback that they want him to be, with all the movements and the throw motions and everything they want him to look like as a Steelers quarterback. But is this going to be Drew Aller? Is this going to be Howard? Is this going to be Aaron Rodgers? Who are they going to be facing in week number 6 in terms of a quarterback? Overall, I don't think it matters much. I think the Buccaneers are the better team when we look at both of these rosters, just purely. But they do have some talent, of course, on the offensive side with you have now Michael Pittman Jr. And, of course, you have DJ Metcalf at the other opposite wide receiver position. He's their wide receiver 1. So they have some tall, big wide receiver talent there. But, again, I think this is a winnable game for the Buccaneers. So not much of a ultimate tough start. I think the Bengals will be a tough game, of course, overall. But Packers, of course, another tough team. But not overly hard. There's no, like, Rams right now in this early part of the season or anything like that. All right, week 7, this is a first NFC South matchup for the Buccaneers. So last year, week 1 started the NFC South opponents, right? Week 1 versus the Atlanta Falcons. Now the Buccaneers have to wait to week 7 to face their first NFC South rival. And this comes in the form of Dave Canales and the Carolina Panthers, who they drafted the wide receiver out of Tennessee, Chris Brazzell II. Not ultimately a big fan of his, but he's a tall, fast, speedy wide receiver. They still have, of course, Ted McMillan, Xavier Legette on that offense. They added, of course, to the defensive side of the ball, Jalen Phillips, and also the Devin Lloyd, the linebacker from Jacksonville, to a big contract as well. So they added more talent. They were a playoff team last year, 8-9 playoff team like the Buccaneers would have been, but a playoff team overall. So the Buccaneers will see another playoff opponent and their first NFC South opponent in week number 7. All right, week number 8, the Buccaneers will be on the road versus the Atlanta Falcons. So last year, for each one of their division matchups, they went 1-1. They split every series between the Saints and the Panthers and Falcons. So, I know the Buccaneers hope that they can sweep some of these teams, or all these teams ideally, right? The Atlanta Falcons have a lot of talent. They have Kevin Stefanski now as their head coach as well. They have a lot of talent on offense. But at the quarterback position, that is the sketchy part, right? It's who is it? It's going to be Tua. It's going to be Michael Penix Jr., who is recovering from a torn ACL. Who exactly is it going to be? Does Tua have a career resurgence, career revival in Atlanta with the talent around who have Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts? Who knows? But anytime that you have a division matchup, you can kind of throw a record, you can kind of throw everything out the door. It's just a tough, gritty, a fight to the end type of game most times. Just a fun game overall. All right, so week number 9. This is a fun one here. The Buccaneers, and I believe a lean from News Channel 8 broke this one yesterday. So this is at the Chicago Bears, Sunday Night Football, 8:20 kickoff. Former number 1 overall selection, Caleb Williams, versus former overall selection, number 1 overall selection, Baker Mayfield. Fun game. Let me tell you something. I was not a fan of Caleb Williams at all, but he sold me in the playoffs last year. I know they didn't get far ultimately, but just his play, just his way to keep plays alive, you just see these wow plays, and sometimes it looks like he's maybe trying to do a little bit too much, but I think he gets the job done when he needs to get the job done. Ultimately, I think he's just an athletic guy and a guy who has really good arm talent, really nice arm talent overall. He can put the ball in tough positions. He can find a way to keep plays alive and scramble around and keep his eyes down the field and launch it down the field and make a spectacular play like he did multiple times last season in the playoffs as well. So this is going to be a fun game overall. I think the Buccaneers, slight edge, I would say right now, but I mean, this is going to be a tough game. If the Buccaneers were to lose this game in Chicago, it's going to be a nighttime game in November. Don't know how cold it will be in November, Chicago. But ultimately, this is a fun game. I don't know who's going to win right now. We'll do a full season prediction later on in a different episode, but that's a fun game right there. All right, bye week comes in week 10. Last year, the bye week came in week number 9, so pretty close overall. Week 10 bye week. The first 9 games aren't overall like super difficult. Now every team is tough in the NFL. Of course, you feel you're facing NFL level talent, but it's not overall like you're not facing the Super Bowl winning Seattle Seahawks and the Rams and all these top teams. You're facing teams that are pretty much equal to the Buccaneers, and these games, some of these games go either way, like the Bears game or the Packers game, for example. All right, week number 11. I like this game. This is going to be a tougher matchup. We're talking about easier matchups overall. I'm not saying any of these teams are going to be easy to beat, but again, not Super Bowl level, caliber teams. But the Detroit Lions, I know some people are down on them. Overall, they've been down on them for a year or two now, but I still like the Detroit Lions. It feels like they're now a part of the NFC South because the Buccaneers face them essentially almost like every year, it feels like. But this is a fun game. You have Dan Campbell, you have Jared Goff. We know the guys there. Jahmyr Gibbs, of course, also Isaiah Pacheco, that they signed in free agency from the Kansas City Chiefs, a running back who runs really hard. I mean, but this is another one of those games where we know it's a tough matchup for the Buccaneers. I don't know which way I'd go right now. I think that's a pretty even matchup overall. Maybe give the slight edge to Detroit. Maybe give it to Buccaneers overall. But we don't know what these teams are going to look like in Week 11. What the status of their health are going to look like. Their rosters overall in Week 11. Christian Izien, now a member of the Detroit Lions, he wanted to move over to a different team to hopefully get more playing time somewhere else. And he was a vital depth piece for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now moves on to Detroit, and the Buccaneers lack depth at the outside cornerback position and safety position as well. If you needed him to play outside corner, that wasn't, of course, his expertise. He was a nickel and a safety, but if you needed him to, we saw that, last year when Bryce Hall went out with a broken leg, and I believe it was, the Jets game. All right, so week number 12, the Carolina Panthers. Another match between the Carolina Panthers. Last year, the two matchups came in week 16, week 18, the final 3 games of the season. This one comes in week number 7 and 12 here. This one at home. It's a Monday Night Football game, so a prime time game. The 2 prime time games so far being actually 3. You have the Dallas Cowboys, Thursday Night Football. You have the Bears, week number 9. That is Sunday Night Football, and then now Monday Night Football against the Carolina Panthers. I mean, again, another year for Bryce Young to be in Dave Canales' offense. I think the Buccaneers and Panthers are going to be the top 2 teams in the NFC South, fighting for the top spot, fighting to be the kings of the NFC South. I think the Saints are going to have a good year also. I don't know if they're going to have as good of a year as these 2 teams, but I think they're going to be slightly pushing to be a part of that group who's trying to win the NFC South. I think the Falcons come in at the bottom of the basement, but we'll see how it all plays out. But that's early look on the NFC South. All right, week 13, an electric fun matchup. Justin Herbert, Mike McDaniels, Harbaugh as their head coach. This is a fun game overall. The Chargers don't have the offensive firepower that the Buccaneers do, even though the Buccaneers lost Mike Evans, of course, but they've gained Ted Hurst. They gained also Kenny Gainwell from the Steelers. They still have Bucky Irving. The Buccaneers still have the Emeka Egbuka, Jalen McMillan, Chris Godwin Jr., Kate Allen, all these types of guys. So it's going to be a fun game overall. The Chargers did lose Kevin Minter. He went on to the Baltimore Ravens, who the Buccaneers will be facing the next week. But this is kind of a little bit of a harder stretch. So coming out of the bye, you have the Lions, you have the Panthers, who anytime you face a divisional team, of course, that is not an easy win whatsoever. So but I would say the primary teams here being the Lions coming out of the bye, the Chargers, and then the Ravens. So that is kind of your tougher stretch coming out of the bye. We saw that last year too, when the Buccaneers came out of the bye facing teams like the Rams and, of course, also Patriots coming out of the bye. But I think that's your tougher stretch. We saw an easier stretch in the beginning of the season, but now that's kind of your tougher stretch right there coming out of the bye. Week 14 at Baltimore. Baltimore now has Trey Hendrickson, of course. They still have Lamar Jackson, Kevin Minter, as I mentioned, being their new head coach. Elijah Surratt, Waffle House, Vega Wane. They drafted both of those guys to help out their offense. I was a big fan of both of those guys. Had them both in my mock draft, my final mock draft for the Buccaneers. I think it turned out even better for the Buccaneers around number 1 because I wasn't expecting Ruben Bain Jr. to fall to the Buccaneers number 15. And Vega Wane went 14 overall. I know Jason Light was high on Vega Wane. He thought it was a great prospect overall, but I think the Buccaneers got another tremendous talent. I think both those guys are really good talent. We're talking about Vega Wane and Ruben Bain Jr. All right, week number 15 versus the Saints. And this is the first time the Buccaneers will be seeing the Saints. And last year, towards the end of the season, again, it was the Panthers, who the Buccaneers saw in a 3-week span. Now it's the Saints, who they will see in a 4-week span here. The Saints have a lot of talent on offense now. Their defense always finds a way to be effective, even though they don't have necessarily the star power as other teams do. They've been facing cap problems, and that's hurt them overall. But when you look at that offense, and you have Tyler Shuck, who had a really good, solid rookie season last year, there's some hope that he might be the quarterback of the future. He has to continue that. You don't want to see a sophomore slump or anything like that. I know Buccaneers fans do, but I'm saying overall from a Saints perspective or just an NFL spectator perspective. But that offense, you have Alvin Kamara, who's dipped down through age overall, but they brought in Tyler Achane, previously Tyler Etienne, right, from the Jacksonville Jaguars, the running back. So they have a good running back duo there. They have Chris Olave, former Ohio State wide receiver, of course, Jordan Tyson, and Bryce Lance. They also brought in Noah Fant. They still have Juwan Johnson at the tight end position also. So a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball in terms of weapons for Tyler Shuck. Just a way to, help him to continue to progress and develop as a quarterback. So these games won't be easy for the Buccaneers. And again, we'll see who's available, who's, is Jordan Tyson. I know that was a big issue throughout college at Arizona State University, ASU. Can he stay healthy for a whole season? And this is later end towards the end of the season. I would hope he stays healthy because, again, you want to see these teams at their best. You don't want to, I know Bucs fans, you would want, or any team's fans will want to face each one of these teams with the most injuries and the quarterback one being out, but you don't get it. You don't get to see truly the talent of your team when you're facing a beat up, mangled team, like a team that's losing or is missing many of their starters on offense or defense, just in general. All right, so week 16 at the Atlanta Falcons, TBD. This might be a flex game. We'll see as it progresses, and maybe seeing for how these two teams are gonna pan out, and maybe is this game gonna determine the NFC South winner or lead one of these teams to have an advantage as we finish out the season. But Falcons again later towards the season, so maybe Michael Penix Jr. is back for that game. We don't know. Week 17. This one is a tough matchup. We know last year the Buccaneers got blown out by the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay. We know what they have over there. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams on the defensive side of the ball. That defensive front four, those Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner, Byron Young and Jared Verse, those guys who allow Chris Shula, the defensive coordinator, to just rush the passer at 4 and not have to blitz as much. And they give the DBs and that backfield, who they now have Trent McDuffie also, who they trade from with the the Chiefs. It's just they have so much talent on that team. And I think this is a great position. Week 17. I know this might hurt the Buccaneers' playoffs chances, but if they are a playoff team, you get a really solid test right before the season ends in week 17. The Rams, who might be a Super Bowl contender team in 2026 versus the Buccaneers. So you get to see a litmus test, right? You get to see overall the Buccaneers versus the Rams. Let's see who's the better team as we close out the season here. A great test for the Buccaneers. Zion McCollum, he got kind of tortured in that game last year, but I mean, you hope he has a bounce back season and all this stuff, but I think that's a really cool matchup late in the season. It's going to be a very tough matchup, probably the toughest matchup of the year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming towards the end in week 17. All right, week 18 to close out the season, Buccaneers versus the Saints. It will be at New Orleans. The Buccaneers will finish the regular season away here. And again, the Buccaneers game versus the Rams is a home game, so that's good for the Buccaneers. But we have, that's a Sunday 12 o'clock game, so a little bit earlier there. But for the Saints, again, maybe the Saints and the Buccaneers are the top 2 teams in the NFC South, and maybe week 18 will determine it. will determine who is the winner of the NFC South. I think we're going to see it every year. The NFC South, and rightfully so, right, gets kind of made fun of as being the weakest division in football. But I think it's gonna take a step forward this year with Tyler Shuck and the weapons he has, and Bryce Young another year in Dave Canales' offense, and he has talent on offense and on defense as well. I think the Buccaneers, being a team who lost Lavonte David and lost Mike Evans, two future Hall of Famers, but being able to reload with guys like Ruben Bain Jr., Al-Quadi Muhammad in free agency, Ashawn Robinson as well, Alex Anzalone, Josiah Trotter. We'll see how he turns out in coverage, but the Buccaneers are really high on him in coverage. Ted Hurst, who's going to be playing the X wide receiver role. We don't know when exactly. Will that be to start the season, or as he develops? Would be Jalen McMillan, who fills in as the X wide receiver earlier on in the season. I'm still high on Jalen McMillan also. I think he's kind of the forgotten guy in this Buccaneers wide receiver room, but don't sleep on Jalen McMillan. He was, if you remember in for example, the Miami Dolphins game, he was kind of bailing out Baker Mayfield, of course, had the accuracy issues last year. He was overshooting guys, even overshooting Mike Evans at times. I know that he was dealing with injuries throughout the season, but in that Miami Dolphins game, he was missing, not high though, he was missing low, and Jalen McMillan saved him a few times with some baseball slide catches. But he's a guy who, like Todd Bowles said in the owners meeting this year, he plays bigger than his size. He's a 6'1" type of guy. Like 198 or 210, somewhere in that range. Slimmer guy also, but he plays bigger than what he is. And I think he might fill in as the X wide receiver as Ted Hurst develops. But I'm excited for training camp because I want to see how confident are the Buccaneers of some of these guys, and how early do they have some of them starting. For example, like, will Keontae Scott be the starting nickel right away? And like we saw last year, Jacob Parrish being the starting nickel right away. And maybe they have Jacob Parrish be outside. We don't know. We'll see as the season progresses and as training camp inches closer and appears. But overall, I think this is a not so difficult schedule. And I don't want to say that and jinx it all, because we don't know how the season's going to pan out. Of course, if you lose your quarterback one, for example, Baker Mayfield, every single one of these games becomes ultra hard, ultra difficult, because then you have you have Jake Browning, or you have Jalen Daniels or Connor Bazelak trying to win these games for you. But I think overall, after the bye week is when the strength, and right before the bye week with the Bears also. So right before the bye week with the Bears, and then after the bye week with guys like, or teams like the Lions and the Chargers and the Ravens, and then later on the season, the Rams, and you have all these division matchups also. After the bye, you're going to see the real test for the Buccaneers come about. And again, they're still going to be tested earlier on in the season, but I think the strength of this schedule in terms of the difficulty comes right before the bye and after the bye overall. It's where all your division matchups are and the tougher opponents that you'll be facing in 2026. So we'll do a way too early schedule prediction for the 2026 season for the Buccaneers in a different episode. But let me know right now, who do you think is going to be the toughest opponent for the Buccaneers? Are you excited about the first week at Cincinnati for this? And overall, just tell me, what record do you envision currently the Buccaneers possibly having in 2026? Do you think they're going to be like a 12-win team, 11-win team? Do you think they're going to struggle? Maybe be an 8-7-win team? We don't know. But just let me know your thoughts overall. I can't thank you guys enough for watching. I'm your host, Dan Morales, and we're inching closer to football. We're going to have a drought here, but let's just stick through the summer and all these things as we wait for one of the most beautiful things ever, right? Football to be back on our TV screens. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm your host, Dan Morales, signing out, guys. Bye-bye.